Publix, as you know, donated $100,000 to your campaign, and then you rewarded them with the exclusive rights to distribute the vaccination in Palm Beach.
First of all, what you're saying is wrong.
How is that not pay to play?
That's a fake narrative. I met with the county mayor, I met with the administrator, I met with all the folks at Palm Beach County, and I said, here's some of the options. We can do more drive-through sites. We can give more to hospitals. We can do the Publix. And they said, we think that would be the easiest thing for our residents.
But Melissa McKinley, the county commissioner in the Glades, told us the governor never met with her about the Publix deal.
The criticism is that it's pay to play, Governor.
It's wrong. It's a fake narrative. I just disabused you of the narrative, and you don't care about the facts because obviously I laid it out for you in a way that is irrefutable.
He went down to Palm Beach in the middle of all this, and he met with the mayor of Palm Beach, who's a Democrat. He also met with the county administrator. The three of them sat down and they said, how can we distribute this vaccine so that we can save more lives and get these numbers down? And they decided not only drugstores, but they also decided Publix. Publix was the first, he said, to raise their hand. But they cut that out of the 60 Minutes piece. This is what they did not air.
As we got into January, we wanted to expand the distribution points. So yes, you had the counties, you had some drive-through sites, you had hospitals that were doing a lot, but we wanted to get it into communities more. So we reached out to other retail pharmacies, Publix, Walmart. Obviously, CVS and Walgreens had to finish that mission, and we said we're gonna use you as soon as you're done with that. For the Publix, they were the first one to raise their hand, say they were ready to go. And you know what? We did it on a trial basis. I had 3 counties. I actually showed up that weekend and talked to seniors across 4 different Publix. How was the experience? Is this good? Should you think this is the way to go? And it was 100% positive.
Wow. So that was the whole thing, and I hope you had a chance to see both. But now it's time to bring in Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, 60 Minutes, one of the most popular shows in the country, has been for the last 50 years. What are your thoughts when this was the narrative that most of America was seeing?
Well, I think fortunately, Brian, a lot of Americans don't believe corporate media anymore for precisely this reason. Right. They edited out all the key facts. I gave a very detailed 2-minute response at the press conference. They edited out all the facts. You just showed some of the facts. There's even more. I mean, the reason why Palm Beach wanted to do Publix, they have 65 Publix and 90% of their seniors live within a mile and a half. And so we were in a situation where that was very convenient and it made a lot of sense. CBS cut that out and they acted like we weren't trying to make it widely available. Also, there was no deal with Publix. They're one of the most respected companies in Florida. People love it. It would be malpractice not to use them as a distribution point. But the state never paid them a dime to do any of this. And we also had it in other pharmacies, CVS and Walgreens from the very beginning, but they were going into the long-term care facilities at the time, so we wanted them to finish that mission. And here's the bottom line. In Palm Beach, we've done over 275,000 seniors that have gotten shots. Statewide, we've done 3.5 million seniors that have gotten shots. So we've done one of the best jobs in the country at protecting our seniors. The results speak for themselves, but they didn't want to tell you that because they know that that'll blow up their narrative.
Absolutely. And Governor, CBS responded. They said, we routinely edit footage for clarity. And they edited your comments to be very clear that you did something sneaky or underhanded. But here's the thing. You've got Democrats in that region. You've got the head of the emergency management, Jared Moskowitz. He said, period, full stop. No one from the governor's office suggested Publix. It's just absolute malarkey. And then Dave Kerner, the mayor of Palm Beach County, said the reporting was not just based on bad information. It was intentionally false. They know that the governor came to Palm Beach County and met with me and the county administrator, and we asked to expand the state's partnership with Publix to Palm Beach County. So if CBS's story was intentionally false, what were they intending to present?
So here's the thing with both of those guys, both Democrats, both I've worked with, great guys. They offered to be interviewed by CBS to explain kind of how our vaccine. CBS declined to talk to them because they knew that if they talked to them, they would blow up CBS's narrative. Because what Jared Moskowitz says, what Dave Kerner says, that's just the fact. CBS doesn't have any facts on their side, so they knew if they used them, they wouldn't be able to do innuendo. So all they were looking to do is a hit job on me to try to smear me just because I'm in the other party than them. That's the only reason. You know, they're based in New York. What do they do with the governor of New York who's in their party?
Yeah. Right.
They do puff pieces. They do all this stuff. Would you rather get a vaccine as a senior in Florida or up in New York? Obviously, we've done a much better job protecting seniors. A lot of people were leaving New York to come to try to get vaccine here. So this is partisan corporate media. And I think at this point, these people like this reporter, they're basically ambulance chasers with a microphone. They are not trustworthy. They lie. We know they're lying. They know that we know they're lying, and yet they lie and they lie and they lie.
Governor, are you saying 60 Minutes has a political agenda to make you look bad, and perhaps to neutralize you as an up-and-coming force in the Republican Party?
Is the Pope Catholic?
Okay.
So all Floridians of age are now eligible to get the COVID vaccine in your state?
Yeah, so starting on Monday, we opened up to everyone. As I mentioned, we had 3.5 million seniors that have gotten shots. We've lowered the age over the last few weeks, and now we are opening up to everybody. So our seniors first approach has worked, and it's now allowed us to open it up to everyone 1 month before the federal government recommended it.
80% of all deaths are with seniors, and so it's logical. Governor, last thing on this. They do say in the minority neighborhoods in Palm Beach, the other side of Palm Beach, I don't know it as well as Steve and you guys, they said that they felt like they were on the not on the top of the list, and there was a sense that publics donated to your campaign. That's why they were picked. Do you want to answer both those things?
Well, here's what 60 Minutes didn't tell you. As soon as we started doing the Publix, there was a request to go out to the western part of the county, and one of the rural counties, heavily African-American, a town called Pahokee. We set up a special site in Pahokee. My secretary of the lottery grew up there, played football at Florida State. We went down together. We did it. Everyone was very happy. CBS didn't tell you that. They didn't tell you that we were partnering with African-American churches at the beginning of January. Before any other state in the country, we were at churches on Sundays doing hundreds of mostly African-American parishioners. They didn't want to tell you that because it would have destroyed their narrative.
Yeah. Let's switch gears. There's obviously every state now in the country is a border state because we've got an influx of migrants through our southern border, and they're winding up in every state, including your state of Florida. The news this morning is that we have heard Republicans say, during this rush for so many migrants coming across the border, we got to worry about terrorists coming in. Now the news is that apparently 2 men from Yemen, who were on the FBI's terror watch list, have been caught near the U.S.-Mexican border in the last couple of months, one in January and one in March as well. One guy had a SIM card hidden in his shoe. And ultimately, what is happening with this crisis or challenge, and those are the images where we've obscured their identities.
Young guys.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, with so many migrants coming in, the agents cannot really go out and about to make sure nobody's coming across where there's no fence. So inadvertently, it is now much easier for people who want to sneak across the border and don't want to, surrender to the Border Patrol agents to do just that, including terrorists. The Republicans were right.
This is a Biden-caused disaster. And because he rejected the policies that President Trump had put in that were working, you now have this serious situation at the border. Absolutely, it makes our country more vulnerable to that type of infiltration. But it's more than just that. They've basically stopped enforcing immigration law. So in Florida, we had agreements with ICE that if someone was convicted criminal in our prison here illegally, ICE would pick them up when they were done with their prison sentence, and then they'd return them to their home country. Now Biden will not take those convicted criminal aliens. And so they're releasing these people into communities all across the country. I actually did an event last week in Central Florida. I had Jamil Shah, whose son was murdered by a released criminal alien. And I also had the Michaels family from Jacksonville who had the same fate for their son. So this has real consequences for public safety and national security.
I'm just so amazed that governors are never informed when kids are put into schools. And they're not informed when they're put into facilities. For example, I remember last time Homestead was a big landing place for these illegal immigrants. Is it again?
So not to my knowledge, that you're right. They don't inform us. Some of those are federal facilities, so they're just doing that on our own. And so we're kept in the dark about a lot of what's happening.
So it could be? They could be in there? They could be coming there?
It could be. I mean, I have not gotten any information in that regard, but I don't imagine that we would get very much of a heads up in that situation.
The Homestead facility was a private detention center, and that's where Kamala Harris was back in 2019. All right, Ainsley?
Thank you. Let's talk to you about Atlanta. The MLB has moved the All-Star game from Atlanta. Now they're going to Colorado. They're going to be in Denver at the Coors Field Stadium. And when you look at the difference in the voting rights, it's actually easier to vote in Atlanta or in Georgia than it is in Colorado. Colorado, they only have 15 days of early voting. Georgia, they have 17. Both states, you have to have an ID to mail, to vote by mail and to vote in person. So there's really, it's actually, the voters in Georgia have more benefits than the voters in Colorado. So why are they doing this?
Well, I think it's a total disaster for Major League Baseball. I think they're alienating their fans. And here's the problem. You have the political left that will push narratives. You'll have corporate media will further the narratives regardless of facts. Now you have major businesses and sports leagues adopting those narratives and taking huge consequential action as a result. What Major League Baseball is doing will hurt people in Atlanta. And I'm pretty sure it will probably hurt a lot of African Americans. So why they're doing it, I have no idea. It's hypocritical. They say they don't like Atlanta or Georgia because they're passing voter integrity laws, right. Yet they do business with China. They went down and hobnobbed with communist Cuba and Castro. They've had a relationship with the Castro regime for years.
Right, where so they don't even have elections.
To high heaven.
Right. And,
of course not. And so all they're doing is getting pushed around by corporate media and the left, and they are alienating people. It was a huge mistake.
Well, it's harder now to cheat in Georgia, ultimately, where they've expanded things. But Governor, you look at big corporations like Coke, and you look at Delta, American Airlines, Southwest, places like that. Big corporations have decided to wade in on public policy and take a side. Yesterday, Mitch McConnell said to the CEOs of America, stay out of politics, don't pick sides. Ultimately, if you're a shareholder of a big corporation that takes a side, there's a real good possibility people will stop patronizing your facility or buying your stuff because they're steamed at you.
And not only that, but they're doing it based out of ignorance. They're not actually citing facts. They're just simply accepting these narratives whole cloth. And so you really got to question their competence when they're making these decisions. But I can tell you this, in Florida, we're not governed by these big companies. We're doing the work of the people. These big companies that think that they can butt in here, that will not be received favorably in the state of Florida. And I can tell you, it's not just me saying that. I think our legislature would be united in that. Corporations should work on employing people and doing business. They should stay out of the political fray, and we don't want to see that here in Florida.
Governor, I'm sure you don't track New York. You got your own state to worry about, but they are now about to announce a raise in taxes, despite getting a huge payout from the Democratic president. They're going to raise taxes on millionaires or those who are earning the most, who are already paying the top 2% paying 50% of all taxes here. They're going to be the number one, the highest personal income tax state in the nation. What is that going to do for Florida, in New York? What is that going to do for Florida's population?
Well, I think it's going to probably help the real estate market, because I think that every time they do something like this, certain people say, okay, I've reached my limit, I'm out. Right. And it's a vicious cycle. They raise the taxes, people leave, the economic base shrinks, and they have to do it all over again, rinse and repeat. So yeah, obviously you're going to have people moving. I actually talked with a company yesterday about moving operations down here, manufacturing from New York to Florida. Was it News Corporation? So I think we'll continue to. What's that?
Was it News Corporation?
Well, you guys know in the age of COVID, you did a lot of stuff remotely. You could easily make places in Florida your headquarters, or you could do a lot on your own. So yeah, so we think that that'll end up happening. But look, at the end of the day, Part of it is some of those states have done bad policies, but part of the reasons people like Florida is because we've done a lot of good policies.
Sure.
And so people understand that we're putting freedom first, kids are in school, our economy's doing well,
Right.
and I think you're going to continue to see that in the future.
Governor, during the pandemic, a number of Wall Street hedge funds and things like that relocated to Palm Beach County. And now we're wondering, as we come out of the pandemic, how many of those companies and those people who have big paychecks are going to stay there?
Well, I think some will, and maybe not all. And that's obviously been an important thing. But I can tell you this, Steve, in terms of what we're seeing, aerospace, the space, private space industry is on fire in Florida.
Yeah.
And we are doing really well with manufacturing, a lot of the key things. We're going to build off that. So I think we have a much more diversified economy in Florida than we did just 15 or 20 years ago. And that's exciting. That means more opportunity for people here in the state.
All right. Governor Ron DeSantis, always great to hear from you. You were featured on Sunday, and you're able to get your word out on Monday and Tuesday. And thanks for coming here first.
Thanks, Governor.